Hey guys, how's everyone doing? Hope you're doing well. What are we looking at here? We've got about dang near immaculate set of 2171 case halves, and I have a really nice OEM crankshaft to go with these, as well as, you know, everything to rebuild the bottom end. I'd mentioned it a while back, and I think I shown the farmertec order. We got a big order from farmertec, some plastic and some other random parts. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to try to get these prepped and shoot a little paint on them, and I've already got a bunch of OEM bolts and stuff, random stuff in the ultrasonic cleaner getting cleaned up. I will show this if you're doing these builds like this. These are like 20 bucks at farmertec, and they'll ship them to you for free in most cases. I usually just throw them in on an order, and it don't increase shipping none at all. And you know, I've went to the local steel dealer and wanted them 5 bolts $1.25. So you know, and I think there's 91 pieces in that or something, but you're saving a lot of money. And let's just face it, most everything's made overseas now anyway. It just is what it is, and you know, that's just the way it's going to be, I guess, from here on out. But whatever. The next thing I'll probably show you guys is I may show putting these together. I may not. I don't know. A lot of the times it's hard to do when you got case halves that are 325 degrees. But we'll just have to see. Usually if I get a kit saw and the bearing and seal's already in the case, I'll heat them up, say 250, freeze my crank, and you know, 9 times out of 10 they'll drop right in. But the way we're going to do this one is I'm going to get my crank prepped, and I'll probably give you a look at it before it goes in the freezer. We're trying to get it cleaned up real nice. I'll put it in the freezer for a day or so, and what we'll do is put both bearings in the oven, heat them up, say 250 or so, and 9 times out of 10 they'll drop right on the crankshaft. And then what I'll do is throw that whole assembly back into the freezer once it cools off and everything kind of sets up. And we'll leave it for, you know, a few hours. It doesn't take it long to freeze back up usually, and we'll put one case half, it's usually the flywheel side, into the oven, heat it up to 325 degrees, and 9 times out of 10 that crankshaft will drop right in. And then I'll set that whole assembly back in the freezer, let it get good and froze, usually half of the day or something, if not a whole day. What I'll do there is I also have the dowel pins in that side, and I'll go ahead and glue the gasket in place, just a thin layer of glue just to hold it. And the next day or whatever, we'll heat up the PTO side of the case halves, 325 degrees, pull our frozen stuff back out of the freezer, and it'll usually slide right together. But all that sounds crazy and time consuming, but you know, it keeps me out of buying more hundreds of dollars worth of tools I just don't need. I have taken like an old clutch and flywheel nut and, you know, cases like that and pulled them together. You can build pullers, but most of the time I'd rather heat something and put it together anyway over pulling it together. That's, you know, that's just my opinion on it. But maybe the next thing I'll show you guys is maybe these with some paint on them, or, you know, either the crankshaft cleaned up or something. But I'm going to try to not make this too awful long, but I'm going to try to catch as much of it on video as I can, and we may swap cameras in and out here and there, but I'll try to put you guys together a pretty decent video. And if you didn't see it, you know, here's the big box of farmertec stuff. I think it was a little over $100 in parts, and then, you know, shipping's god awful horrible on that stuff, but you know, it is what it is. And then here we've got a big box of, you know, OEM stuff. Like, we'll be running an OEM coil, flywheel, you know, your oiler, clutch, I think I do have a farmertec clutch drum, but I've usually not had a problem out of those. farmertec big bore top end. Hopefully the squish is not horrible on it, but you know, you guys will know if it is. But anyway, I'll show you more later. Got the old ultrasonic cleaner buzzing right along. These things do an amazing job. If you don't own one, and you know, you end up fooling with these old junk saws and, you know, dirty parts, you know, the way we like it usually. These things are a pretty good investment, just in my opinion anyway. Alright guys, just to show how clean some of the parts are that come out of that cleaner. Flywheel looked horrible when I put it in. It looks like a new piece now. Got her crankshaft cleaned up and dressed up and ready to go in the freezer. Thought I'd give you guys a look at that. It is a OEM 2171, just like the cases, bottom end, except for I think this crank come out of the busted set of crankcases. But figured I'd give you a look and we'll show you more later. I think that color will match pretty good. It's a little more red than orange, but honestly I had a lot of trouble finding a dang can of orange paint that was anywhere close to it. But I'm sure Husqvarna sells their own just like Steel does, but the damn problem is finding anything these days. So we'll use what we have. Just a quick paint and tip. What I done with these, I just took some 500 grit. You could even use 320. A lot of these spray paints are designed to self-layer. If I was using an automotive grade paint and primer, I'd probably do this a little different. But for this, you know, anything from, we'll say 220 up, you can scuff it up. You could even use a Scotch-Brite pad. Just if you've got somewhere where paint's chipped, just kind of feather edge it around and get it good and smooth and make sure that there's no more going to chip off. Your first coat should not be total coverage. You see me just kind of spraying here and there. This one's actually probably covered most anywhere I want it to, but I've been painting for a long time. Just get a good, what's called a tack coat down. What this does is it adheres to what you scuffed up with the sandpaper. Don't try to paint a smooth surface. It'll just chip right off. You have to scuff it up. It's called a mechanical adhesion, and then the next couple of coats I put on it will be a chemical adhesion, just like gluing something together. And we'll bake this in the oven a few times at 325 degrees, and it won't set up as hard as, I think these are powder coated, as hard as what's on them from the factory, but you know, it'll be a lot better than say just rattle canning it and calling it quits. Needs heated up to flash off anyway, but baking it just gets it that much harder. And also you want that surface as clean as you can get it. I'll clean it with degreaser, and then what I do is I'll go over it with, you don't have to buy some special cleaner. All you need is isopuric rubbing alcohol. It'll get it as clean as you need it to be. That's what I do when I paint a car. I don't use any special stripper or cleaner. Just wipe it down with isopuric rubbing alcohol that's clean. Take your air hose and blow it off one last time and shoot the paint to it. Okay, so this color is a little bit darker, but you know, what little bit you see of the cases, I don't think it's really going to matter anyway. There was a lot more paint missing on those cases once I got to sanding on them, so you know, they were due up painting anyway, I guess. And the name of that color is, I think, Strawberry Fiesta. Which, yeah, strawberries are red, but you can tell there's a lot more of an orange tint to that anyway. They may turn out looking pink for all I know. We'll have 2 pinkie pies. Those turned out really nice. We did mask off our tag just, you know, to prove that they are OEM cases, but I'm sure there's a serial number on it somewhere. But anyway, probably be tomorrow before I do any more. We're cleaning some parts up for a 1010 here, kind of trying to do both at one time. Show you more tomorrow. There you go, bearings are installed. And there it is, it's that simple. Ooh, but she is hot. And we're on. Alright, I hope you can see I put the bolts in just for sake of video space and length of the video. You know, when you do your final torque on these, you want to do it just like you're torquing a set of cylinder heads or something. Just in a crisscross pattern. I'm bad about cranking things way down, but that's just me. I rarely ever have anything come loose either. Then we'll move to the 2 outer ones on the oil tank. If you've not done a 372, you know, it's 365, 371, 372. Johns are 2065 through a 2171. These are 2171 cases. I don't know if I showed it on the tag or not. They were about in immaculate condition, but we'll go back over one last time. I've already got my fingers in the way. Then we'll do the 2 on the oil tank. I'm sure there's a torque spec on theirs, and someone's gonna think I should have used a torque wrench, but done it this way for years on these small engines and never had a problem. I'm gonna let it cool off before I see what the crank's gonna feel like, and I'll bring you back then if we need to do any centering on it. Alright guys, for sake of the video, I went ahead and drove that seal in this side. That's something I kind of have to just sit and concentrate on. I don't have the proper seal drivers to do these saws. I'm stuck with the socket method. It works, you just have to be patient and take your time. Went ahead and put the flywheel on. I will say that the end of this crankshaft was mushroomed a little bit, I guess from disassembly. Who knows how long ago. I did have to sit and work with it with a file and run a nut on and off of it a bunch of times. Would have been nice to have a tap or a chase to go on and off of it, but we've dealt with that so much in the past. You know, you can use a thread file, or I just used a flat file because I loaned my thread file out and never got it back. Need to buy another. But I will say I went ahead and filed a little bit off of the key. The key is on the flywheel on these, and gave it just a couple of degrees of ignition advance. farmertec top end, we don't have a way to do any machine work to that. Have no idea where squish is going to be, but you know, I'm not expecting it to be a compression king, and You know, I've thrown timing at saws with all the way up to 190, 200 psi, and you know, all of them seem to like it, but you know, you can go too far with it. But I will say you don't have to, but it's easier to go ahead and put this air deflector in before the flywheel. You know, like I said, you can get it on there without it, but it just makes it a lot easier. There's a little dowel or a hole the dowel sits in, and then you've got a bolt goes in it, and that's it. But I'm gonna get to the other side and put that other seal in, and then we'll be ready to get our top end out and see what we're working with. All right, I went ahead and bolted the tank assembly on just for stability, and I'll probably go ahead and put the carb tray in too. If you've not done one of these, there's like a dowel sticks out over here, and you've got to angle that tank right back in it first before everything will pop in. You know, you'll know what I'm talking about. Maybe I've got a set of cases here we can, let's see. And I don't think anybody would want these cases. They are kind of busted out of hell, but this one's still got the carb tray bolted to it. But right here you can see that dowel. You have to get that, you have to get the tank angled right for that to pop in, and then your springs you kind of push a little and it'll all just pop right in. Really simple. But you got a screw goes in here and here, and then back here. I don't know what in the hell it's there for. I've heard other people ask the same thing. Maybe if the other three fall out, and you will have one that goes through your handlebar into the cylinder, but you know, maybe it's to keep the tank from falling all the way off. I have no idea, but it's there. Who knows? But carb tray, pretty simple. It sits in there. Your fuel line feeds through, your cable for your throttle, which I think is a horrible design, but whatever, they work and last forever. I'm not an engineer, but your throttle cable goes through one grommet, and then your fuel line will go through one on the other side, and you've got a screw that goes through on each corner. I'll show you more once I get that on. All right, folks, we got the carb plate bolted down, got our line ran up through, and our throttle cable. Pistons just slid on. You know, I did opt for the better bearing that they offer. It's supposed to, you know, original high quality. I don't know, it looked like the other bearing. Could have got two of the other, maybe three, but you know, I think it was like a whole $1.50 or $2 or something. But I've not had a problem out of any of the bearings, but we've been over that. Run good oil and don't lean stuff out and try to make everything a race saw, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But we didn't have any wiring at all here, not for 372 or any of that series saw. But what I did find, if you have any of those little electronic ignition chips to convert points over, they have about everything you need. We got our ground wire, it fit the switch tight. I am going to have to put another terminal. The wire will almost reach the coil. It is an OEM coil. But once we're ready to button it up and get our shroud on, you know, we'll go ahead and piece together the other terminal, and you know, it'll be a done deal. What I wanted to show is this cylinder's actually, I don't know if I'd shown it before, but it, for a damn farmertec, it is really nice. I've gotten a couple that are, I mean, you know, there's some flashing to clean up in the intake and exhaust and transfers, but you know, we'll open those up anyway. But for a Chinese cylinder, the plating in this thing don't look bad. There's some spill over into a couple of the ports, but you know, it don't look bad. Squish band in it's fairly flat for a farmertec cylinder, so I don't know, maybe they've improved on QC, or at least on these big bore jugs anyway. But I figured I'd give you a look at it before we done port work, but honestly, this one I believe you could just put it right on and run with it. There's a few little sharp places I don't like, but we're not going to do that. And I'll just tell you guys, I had the opportunity. I could have just boxed all of this up and sent it and traded it for one badass saw. I know it would have been, but I told you guys we were going to put a 372 together, and I'm a man of my word. And, you know, I enjoy putting the damn things together anyway, but so, you know, we opted to keep it and put it together. But, you know, after I put some time on it and see that the thing's good and sound, this one, you know, it may or may not get sold. I said that in the other video, but, you know, we'll just have to see. But anyway, I'm gonna get this bolted on and see what kind of god-awful horrible squish we have, and, you know, see where the timing's at on the thing. Alright guys, base numbers on this are pretty dang good for a farmertec. Squish 30 thousandths. That's, you know, it's a little tighter than that in a place or two. I measure all around, but I'm gonna call it 30 thousandths. That's pretty good for this. I'd rather see it at 20, but, you know, we don't have a way to machine any of this, and I'm really not going to pay anyone to do it either. Let's see, exhaust ports opening dead on 104 degrees. Once we clean up some, you know, casting flash in there and lay a good polish on it, you know, timing's going to be right where I'd want it to be anyway, you know, right in that. I kind of like that between 150, 155 degrees of duration. Some saws I push to 160 if we can get squish really, really tight, and I know I'm going to have good compression out of it, and, you know, maybe if we can get a pop-up in it. I just like to keep a lot of compression before I go to moving the exhaust timing any at all, but there is other ways to gain RPM on a saw without doing that. We'll move to the transfers. They're opening pretty late, 1:30, you know, that's typical of aftermarket stuff. But we're blessed enough to have a right angle handpiece, thanks to the wife. We can move our transfers, you know, I'd like to see 20 degrees of blowdown on it. That's what I'm gonna push for as well. We'll play with the angles there a little bit as well on that, and, you know, open our lowers up. You know what we do with them. Intake opening at 69 degrees. I'd rather see, you know, 75, 76, but I don't really want to make a big, huge port and lose all my velocity either. So, you know, we'll just have to see, you know, moving at 5, 6 degrees, you know, that's moving the thing, you know, 50, 60 thousandths. It's not really a whole lot, but we'll just have to see. But the next thing I've got to do is I've got a couple hours worth of port work looking at me, and cylinder will be on and off a few times because, you know, like I've said before, we like to take our time and do stuff, you know, the best of our ability here. But anyway, I'll show you guys more later. Alright guys, got the port work finished, about as finished as I'm gonna get it. I didn't go too crazy, you know. I kind of do on the transfers, but everything else I kind of go to that less is more. You guys know that. Really opened up the lowers. We lowered that lip, I guess you could call it. It's about even with the deck of the cylinder. I don't know how well it'll pick up. We went in, changed the timing on our uppers, and kind of pulled that angle, which is already that way somewhat. Back toward the intake, we kind of made it that way a little more. Exhaust port, and get some light on it. We went in, kind of widened that, didn't go too crazy. Cleaned it up, laid a really, really nice polish on it. Intake port, I kind of really like the design it was anyway. It's pretty big to start with. We did widen it a little and work on the floor a little bit and kind of put a slight bevel to the entrance of it. There's no sense in hogging that out. I've showed that before because your intake boot kind of rests up against it anyway, so you kind of just putting wear and tear on your tooling. And we have broken a shaft on the Fordham. I don't know if I showed that, but it got hung in my shirt about 2 weeks ago and snapped the flex shaft right in two. It's kind of crazy, but it's like 10 bucks for a replacement, so it's all good to go. I did do a little work to the piston, lightened it up a little bit. We kind of notched it a little bit to move our timing because I didn't want that to be one big huge port, but we didn't have to do a lot either way. Gonna get this thing together and I'll give you guys the final timing numbers. I kind of do like a half moon in these just to change the timing. And I cleaned a little bit of material out of here and out of the inside. There's like a big huge casting lip, you know. Didn't really need done, but anything you can do to lighten the piston will just help the saw rev a little faster. It's not really going to make any more horsepower, but you know, if you're rotating assemblies that much lighter, you know, it's always a good thing. Alright guys, as you can see, she's most of the way together. To some of you it may not look that way, but just a quick tip: if you've got your carb tray in already, put that intake boot on the cylinder before you set it down. You should still be able to check your final intake timing, or you know, you can put it on and back off without gluing the check, I guess. But we knew about right where it was going to be anyway. Once you've ground so many of them, you know, you just kind of know how many thousandths, you know, it takes to move something of certain degrees. But that just comes from experience of doing so many saws. But with that said, I've got to put the muffler on, starter cover. Well, we got to make an extension for this coil wire, but that's no big deal. Our carb, and I've got to put the oil pump, clutch assembly on, and chain brake and all of that. Once I get to the chain brake and some of that, I may, you know, I'm not going to show putting it together just for sake of video time, but you know, I'll kind of show you the sequence of the way things go. Alright fellas, we've got it together and running. It sounds pretty good. Did run into a couple bolts that had no threads in them, like on the dogs, and let's see, I think there was one where the carb plate bolted down. It still had some threads, but other than that, she's doing pretty good. Somehow the rope jumped out of the starter cover about the second heat cycle. Not sure what was up there. Not running a decomp, may put one in it. It has a lot more compression than I expected to have 30,000 squish, but we did leave a pretty damn conservative exhaust timing on it. This ain't nothing big, but I do plan on getting it over to the property, if not this evening or in the morning if it cools off this evening. But this will be like the third or fourth round the thing's ever cut, so it was really rich. I've still got it pretty rich. Once it breaks in, we'll put a tack on it and dial it on in. But grip's pretty good. We're dealing with the damn knots and shit hanging off of this thing. Should have slid it out to the other end. We may do that and cut a couple more rounds. This chain's still pretty sharp. It's the one I just pulled off with 288 before we sent it back to Simple Man. Big pile of cookies down there. I don't know what in the hell this wood is. I told it was hemlock, and I don't know. Told some kind of spruce. All we know is it was something my great-grandmother had planted like decades ago. It's pretty damn hard. I think it's some kind of pine. I don't know. Big long leaf pine or something, but I know if it's damn sure not white pine. It's not the easiest shit in the world to cut. It's not as hard as hickory or oak, but it's a good test for your saw. And I did fatten up the low jet a little. It seemed just a touch lean down low for my liking. Take that one to the woods and work her, but fellas, I'd say that's a great. My wife said I should name that saw Dolly Parton because it's like the coat of many colors. I used a really light red on the cases. I couldn't find any orange, but it looked better than the dark red, I guess. And every one of these HD covers I've bought, they don't match the rest of the cover. None of it really matches 100%, but you know, farmertec. But hell, everything fit, and it started right up, and I don't know if I'll sell it or not. I kind of like it, but who knows what time will tell. Yeah, we got some more builds coming up. Gonna end up doing a 365 after I finish this Mac, and I've got parts coming to either do an 029 or a 290. I'm not sure which one I'm gonna do yet, but you guys know we've got several builds, but here's one of them knocked out. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. Y'all have a good one.